Hi everyone, so Dr. Barry here, and this video is on one of my favorite books, I want to say, or topics of ancient wisdom, that is through the Kybalion. And a lot of you might have heard of the term and might be familiar with the teachings of the Kybalion. And I do believe that it is one of the most ancient texts and schools of thought since time. And the origins of the Kybalion, or I should say the Hermetic Principles, are in ancient Egypt, from the times of the ancient civilizations in Egypt. And the teacher or the guide that has, from who these teachings are taken from, is Hermes. And he had been deified in Egypt because of his knowledge and because of his teachings. He was considered almost a god and called Thoth. So in history, he comes forth as various different names and he's given different titles, but his teachings are from which, the Kybalion texts are made off of. And from there, since in the ancient days it was in hieroglyphics on stone, carved in stone, and taught from, it is said that when the student's ears are ready, the lips of the master fill it with the words of wisdom. And so that is where this term comes from, is as ancient as the Kybalions. When the student is ready, the master appears. And you hear me saying this a lot in class. So when we're ready to learn our life lessons, that's when our teachers appear. So when we think about this Kybalion, at least to me, when I was studying it myself, I could definitely see the value in bringing the teachings of the Hermetic Principles to a student of you could call it a yogi, or you could call it a student of life that is trying to improve and understand what is actually happening around them. And to me, it's a strong way of building mindfulness within ourselves, understanding the laws of the universe based on a very, very ancient method of understanding, which is written in the 7 principles of Hermes. So I get distracted very quickly, so I'm not going to go too much into the history of Hermes, but he was also known as Hermes, if I get this right, Hermes the Thrice-Born, Trismegistus, I think, if I'm getting it right. It's a Latin word, but I'm sure a lot of you can correct me with that. And so he was called that, or Hermes the Thrice Great. He was as I said, his teachings gave influence to a lot of different cultures, different civilizations, different schools of thought, from Indian to Chinese to Greek, ancient Greek mythology, to Roman, and so on and so forth. So various different civilizations that followed had the teachings almost, I want to say, in a rhythmical fashion. It surfaced and kind of, got buried in the history of time, and then resurfaced by teachers, and then buried again. And a lot of it, if you understand that, with history, if you're interested in the history, it was the Dark Ages after Hermes' teachings were in ancient Greece. When, as the Roman Empire rose to power, it was during the Dark Ages that a lot of teachings were burned. The temples were put to ground, and it was really probably the darkest time in philosophy in history. And the next rise was in the 1500s, where, that led to the Renaissance, and you had Plato and Leonardo da Vinci and all those great writers and poets, philosophers and scientists that started seeing the universe and the world around them in a different way based on the teachings of the Kybalion. And then again, there was a fall because of religious, interference with spirituality, and it was we look at the fall once again, and because of the need of control, where a lot of these belief systems were crucified and people that practiced them were crucified and definitely reprimanded for their beliefs, almost coined as pagan, which is pagan is considered to be country dwellers. So, now is considered the time of the rise of the modern paganist or the modern thinkers that go back to these ancient teachings and resurface them in a new light. So, you can call yourself, or I like to think of myself as a Hermetic student, and all of us are students of life, but these teachings are always, really, every time you read them, they would bring a new light to your own situation and where you are and how you understand the things that are happening around you. And that is why I pay a lot of emphasis to having the teachings of the Kybalion as a part of the B School of Light, because it's definitely something that helps you poise and reflect back to your own situation, and then to analyze what is happening outside of you, and it definitely gives you the ability to see things from a higher perspective. So it's always the wise that keep learning, and wisdom is never enough. So with that, I will start. So I will start with the first quote that is from the Kybalion. The principles of truth are 7. He who knows these understandingly possesses the magic key before whose touch all the doors of the temple fly open. The Kybalion. So the 7 Hermetic principles on which the entire philosophy of the Kybalion rests are as follows. 1. The principle of mentalism. The all is mind, the universe is mental. The Kybalion. 2. The principle of correspondence. I'll go into the detail of this. As above, so below, as below, so above. The Kybalion. 3. The principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. Principle 4. The principle of polarity. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. The Kybalion. The principle of rhythm. Number 5. Everything flows. Out and in, everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swings, manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. The Kybalion. The principle of cause and effect. Number 6. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law, not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. The Kybalion. Number 7, the principle of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. The Kybalion. So these are, I wanted to just kind of give you a brief overview of the 7 principles. my goal would be that in each successive video, we take one principle and really get into the depths of what it is saying. It probably took me, I want to say, months to really understand each principle well and practically apply it to our day-to-day situation or what is going on around us. And you can consider this, I mean, Hermes was considered to be a mystical teacher, an expert astronomist, and in fact introduced astronomy, introduced what was called occultism, or you can call it magic, and what was the understanding of the principles of how things worked in the universe. And so much of his philosophy is what is taken by Carl Jung, and a lot of these neuroscientists and people in psychology to understand how one can analyze mental states of being. And it is very interesting as we go through each of the principles, especially the principle of polarity and the principle of vibration. I feel that there is a lot to learn when it comes to understanding the term healing of yourself and healing your clients or healing your patients. And that can be of interest to a lot of you, that have one-on-one interaction with your patients. Stay tuned for those videos, and I will do my best to bring the information forth. However, I do recommend to get the Kybalion texts. There are various different authors that have translated the Kybalion in their own words, and I probably read 3 or 4 different authors and their translations, and then you can kind of understand it in your own way, and that's usually how I come up with my understanding of each topic and present it to the best possible way. I would encourage you to definitely pick up the text if you have the time and the interest and read through them, because they are a wealth of information. All right, thank you.